All right, good people. I just wanted to drop this and get this out the way because every now and then, you got to throw a couple of elbows here every now and then. So what we're going to be doing is just reacting to. Some people call her May the Troll. She calls herself May the Alchemist, and she put up a video called PhDs and bullshit bad therapy. Right? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and tune that up and react to it. And personally, I really don't know what the problem that she has with this space, right? You've been in and out of this space for 3 years. Okay, you got your complaints about it. You've aired your complaints about it. Um, really, for the most part, nothing that you have really come up with as far as complaints about it made a hill of beans. Okay, that makes sense because one thing about this space, you have to admit, it comes with receipts. Okay, it comes with receipts. It comes with proof. It comes with um, facts, data, statistics. Okay, and most people that come against this space come with feelings. We even come up with solutions. Some people don't want them. Some people don't take them, but we can come up with solutions. But the thing is, a lot of the solutions that we have, or the medicine that we have, okay, it doesn't come with a spoonful of sugar. So anyhow, let's go ahead and pot this up and get this going. Okay. As AB said, he's still doing the Coliseum, so don't this is a sideshow. Okay, so if you guys want to go over to the Coliseum, please head over there. AB, if he's in here, can drop the link to it. If he's got a link for it, he's welcome. So this is just a side thing. The video is about an hour. I don't think I'll try to get through as much of it as I can because normally I can't because normally I uh, get kind of irritated with these people, but I'm going to give my best to actually give it a hearing, a fair hearing, and give it a fair critique. So, without further ado, and as a last warning,
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
warning, okay, and and another one, right?
Hey, yo, lesson here, babe. You come at the king, you best not miss.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go get this party started. Uh,
I have a lot of invoices to write. My voice is deep. It's funny. I have a lot of invoices to write, and I got a lot of planning to do. I'm taking on way too much, but this is what happens during high season. I'm overworked. But
so why are you on?
A great deal of the business
So why are you on doing a podcast if you're overworked?
happens. The income, the largest portions of the income happen in these 2 to 3 months. So it is what it is, Anyhow, so I am going to talk about today processing stuff. I'm processing. That's what I do. I process things.
Okay.
When I see those things that I think are interesting or strange or incredible, I process it. I don't think that the way I think when I first come in contact with something is the absolute correct way.
That would be you're on target with that one. I have to agree with her there. Okay, it's not the correct way.
I believe that, and I learned this as a writer, okay, and I learned this as a strategist, a political strategist.
A political strategist. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Come on, BGS. Be nice. All right.
And as an activist, I learned that sometimes you have to give space and time between events or information, and you process. Sometimes you gather new information. Sometimes your emotions move or move out of the way. Sometimes you're able to become more objective. Sometimes you get a depth that you didn't get initially. A lot of things can happen when you back away from something. For example, I've written creative writing pieces. And at the time when I wrote it, it was spontaneous. It felt right. It felt good. I'm talking about word choice. I'm talking about the way I approached a character, the way I portrayed something, the way I described an environment. So many things that come into play with creative writing. And then what happens is I put the story down, give it a couple of months, and I come back to it and I say, oh, I should have said this. I could have done that. Wow, I can move this around. I can add that. I'm going to take this out. I come to it with new and fresh eyes. Art is the same way. My ex boyfriend is an artist. Um, and I would see him begin a painting and he would stand back and squint and look at it, you know, and I'd see him do something different. And he'd go another direction and he started adding texture and this and that.
I think she means perspective. Okay, stand back and get a different perspective at your painting, at your work. I think that's what she's trying to say in a roundabout way.
And then he'd go back and leave it alone, put the painting down, come back. And then before I actually got the chance to see the art transform over time. So I know the value. That's my point. I know the value of standing back and looking and waiting and letting things marinate so that you can reflect and see things with depth and new eyes. It's totally possible with time and space. So I say all of that to say to you that this Maggie thing. I said to myself, I said, maybe you just don't like white women that much. Maybe, this is some only some old bluest eye type shit, right? If you guys are familiar with
Hey, I was actually, I should have known Maggie was in this somewhere. Okay, I should have known Maggie was in this somewhere. And the fact is, maybe you don't like white women. Maybe it is a bluest eye thing, and it still is. Okay, and I was actually going to do a piece on this, um, about this, about Maggie and other little trifling things that go on in this space. Okay, because I was just, I just did a video yesterday with Dr. Marifa. Now, Dr. Marifa um, is a PhD. He's an international lawyer based in Kenya and in Australia. He does he builds international companies and he does international contracts and stuff like that. And that's his basis of what he does. And what we're talking about is the systemic way that um, that Kenya's marriage laws were changing and being more in harmony with the West, and why they were changing and what they were changing to, and what the process was in the change of a traditional society. With, I think he says they got like 40 different subgroups, and how does it harmonize into something similar to what the West has? Okay, because like I said, their 2013 law that they passed in 2013, right, had been in place. Had replaced something that had been in place since 1882, right? So you had something that was over 100 and some odd years old, and all of a sudden, within 10 years, it's changing into something else. There's got to be a reason for it, right? And we're going through that process now. Nobody talks about that kind of stuff, right? Nobody talks about the stuff we're doing as far as Biden. Nobody talks about the stuff we're doing as far as fertility. Nobody talks about the stuff as how Asian men look at us, and Asian men are going through the same process that we're going through, and how this stuff is spreading throughout the globe and why it's happening. Nobody talks about this, but we're talking about freaking Maggie, okay? Because Maggie has a spot on my chat with a wrench, okay? Which I've explained many, many times. Not on your channel. It's not like she's widespread throughout the whole manosphere, but my channel. And why such a tiny, 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 tiny thing, okay, is so important, okay, that you focus on this little minutia of a person, a minutia of a subject, okay. Maggie's got a small channel, okay, and And even though she's got 30 years in therapy, as far as therapy, because she started when she was 19, even before she had a degree, she was doing counseling. And Maggie's in her 50s. She's been doing this stuff for 30 years, okay? And she's doing an aspect of shadow work, okay, which is esoteric, okay, which is something that that is part of my work, even though I don't talk about it all the time. Shadow work, right? And you have a problem with it because what? We're gonna find out. Said BGS, maybe you should finish what you do and improve later on the next pick, but be just it more. This is a woman that is married talking about her ex artist boyfriend. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care about her ex artist boyfriend or who she's married to or anything like that, man. So, um, I really could care less. If and normally, if she would just go away and pretty much leave me alone, I probably wouldn't talk about it, right? But I promised. I said, she said she's keeping an eye on me. I said so. I said if she's keeping an eye on me, she won't go away. I might as well have some fun. So this is me having some fun. Okay. Yeah, it is a perpetual inferiority complex with white women. You're probably right. Because I thought it's about something else. So this is about Maggie, really?
The Bluest Eye and the the conflict of the black girls and the white girls. The
See,
Bluest Eye by Toni
the,
Morrison.
the,
I said,
the conflict of the black girls and the white girls, which the bluest side was not the conflict about the white girls and the black girls. The bluest side is about the conflict between between uh, upper class boule um, light skinned chicks, okay, versus the lower class dark skinned chicks. That was the bluest side was about. Blue side was about class, okay. Blue side had nothing to do with white women. I mean, zero to do with white women. Okay. Now, is it about a black woman's desire for white womanhood? Yes, it did touch on the black woman's desire for white womanhood. Yes, it did. But as far as conflict between white women and black women, the bluest side did not have anything to do with that.
maybe, just maybe, I have the bluest eye syndrome, maybe, just maybe. And I said, so let's like forget about her being an outsider and let's look at this woman's thoughts and her approach and what she's presenting.
You're an outsider. Okay, you're an outsider. Who puts you in the middle of the black manosphere? You're an outsider. You're talking like you're a mainstay, main starter and main contributor to the black manosphere, and you're not. You're an outsider. Who gave you a vote in this space?
Let's look at that more objectively. Just take some time and just be fair. Be fair. Be fair. You don't believe that she has any real interest. It's kind of like a grift, or she's looking for an audience where she can't get one. And I want to talk about captive audiences too. I've seen that in the world. When I've traveled the world, I've seen captive audiences. And a lot of times, the people who try to hold audiences captive are not the best at whatever they do. um, they find the least among us to create an audience where there can't be one of regular stature. Anyway, my point is this: I don't want to babble. I have an outline because I know I have a tendency to get off track.
Yes, you do. You do have a tendency to babble. Yeah. You are. I wouldn't call you scatterbrained, but yes, yeah, you do. Your thoughts do tend to wander, but that is a female trait.
Because my ADHD is a monster. So the first thing is PhD games. We'll start there. What are PhD games? Only a person who's gone into the study, the long process of getting a PhD, only such a person would understand what I'm about to say. You cannot relate if you've not approached the PhD, particularly the dissertation process. Why do I say PhD games? I start there because you have to understand the mentality of people who have studied very long and strong, and sometimes it turns wrong. Okay. As a woman who is highly educated, formally educated, well educated.
So are you a PhD? So are you Dr. May? If you have, why don't you present your credentials? Okay. What are you doctor of?
From a young age. I went to private school at my foundational years of life. My education I had the best education. Is what I'm saying. Always had access to the best education. Went to private school and private colleges that cost way too much motherfucking money, but I get my bang for my buck. But anyway, the PhD is like a Squid Game. I would describe it like that. It is life or death. It really is. You've invested all this time and energy. You've invested money. You've invested your future. Um, you've sold your soul. Let's just keep it real. You sold your goddamn soul. Only someone who has approached the PhD in depth understands what I am saying. You have decided to give away your lifeblood, your heartbeats, your breath. You've decided to give that away to dedicate yourself to studying a sliver, and notice I said sliver of life. You are not an expert and never will be an expert on anything. PhD
PhDs are experts on what they. That's why they give them a PhD. They're the sliver of life. Okay, whatever it is, they're experts in that field. Okay, that's why they give them a doctorate. They become expert at it. Okay? And if they can't convey expertise in their particular field of study, they do not get a PhD. That is a bullshit argument. Okay, it's a bullshit argument. There's no way you could study something for 8 years or 9 years or whatever that intensely and not become an expert at it. Okay. If I was um, a craftsman, okay, nailing hammers, right, and I did that for 12 hours a day, and I studied books and I studied angles and I went through all the different types of tools and materials and woods and stuff like that. By the time I finished 4 or 5 years of studying that kind of stuff, okay, when I come out the other end, I would be an expert at it. No way you cannot be. Continuing.
these are only people who had the dedication to study a small slice of information. That means they went into a rabbit hole. They went into a never ending, deep, 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 deep rabbit hole. And sometimes they looked up and they could not see the light and they thought they would die there. You understand? It's that deep of a hole. And only to someone who is determined, I would say they have a huge ego invested, as well as a form of pride when they get that PhD. That is the only thing that keeps you going. Because once you get deep, 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 deep in that rabbit hole and you can't breathe and you can't see light and you can't see life and you don't have a life, only once you get deep, deep, deep down and you want to give up and you're tired and you think it's useless because nobody in the world could give a fuck like this. Let me say it again. Nobody in the world could give a fuck like this. This is why. This is why you're losing your life. A PhD causes you to lose your life. Now, I'm talking about
A PhD causes you to lose your life. Okay. And you know this how?
real PhD program. I'm talking about a program that requires you to give everything you have, your time, your energy, your space. There is no fun. There is no friends. There is no vacation. There's no breathing. It suffocates you. Your PhD, if it's done correctly as designed, not some online bullshit you buy, but a real PhD with a dedicated professor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is Squid Games. It is your determination and will and ambition versus their need to keep it from you. And these are smart people. They've been through the gauntlet themselves. They know what they had to go through. It is hazing. Let's keep it real. It is hazing. They haze the hell out of you. You're in a rabbit hole and they pour the water in and you keep trying to run. You keep trying to run in the darkness where there is no light. Yeah, this is the PhD Squid Games. It is a terrible thing that they do to people. This process, this dangling of the carrot. Yeah. And what happens is when you go through this process, again, nobody could give a fuck this much. Nobody should. The T's must be crossed, the I's must be dotted. There are charts and graphs and research and references, and you go over it again and again and again. You review, you have to pull data, pull numbers, cross. Ooh, baby, it just goes on and on and on. And you have to learn the science of this thing. There's a science behind it. A PhD is not fun. You lose your life getting a PhD. You lose years you will never get back and brain cells that want to explode. And hopefully, if they've done their job right, you want to kill the person who is supporting you through your PhD. You want to choke the shit out of them. That's their job. They make it hard. They're supposed to. This is why everybody can't get one. Okay. Talking about the real PhD. But you lose your life. You lose your life. You breathe, eat, sleep, obsess about this stuff, a slither of life, a bit of research.
It's okay. We're 12 minutes in, and I'm still wondering where the point is to all this. Okay, we're 12 minutes in, and she's taught about PhDs negatively, and there is no reason why she's going through all of this. Okay, now she's been talking about PhDs and the process and why she doesn't like the process and how come she doesn't think that it's valuable or anything like that. Okay, my daughter has a master's, right? My daughter doesn't want to get a PhD. Okay, that's valuable to her. She just went through the process. Now, why? I wish I should probably should have listened to it and cut it up because, but like I said, it's a reaction. Um, that's something about when I talk to Maggie. Okay, trying to get her to get to a point or any point. I would rather somebody get to say the point out loud and then support their point. That way I know exactly what she's trying to get to. Because right now I have no idea what she's trying to get to other than she wants to shit on PhDs.
Just a slither. And nobody else in the world could ever give a fuck this much. I promise you. Ask anybody who's got a real PhD in a field that is very, very relevant, not no bullshit. They will tell you they had to give their life and sell their soul to get it. I promise you.
That's I know bunches of them, right? Got a bunch of them in this space, right? They have PhDs, right? They never say that. Okay, got a ton of them they're in this space. They never say that. They never said they had to give up their life. It was a process that they wanted to attain, and some of them had a good time doing it. Some of them, at the time, they had made a bunch of money doing it. Because a ton of PhDs in this space that would not say that. Okay, is it a process like anything else? Hell, you probably have as much. You probably have as hard a time getting your bachelor's, getting through your first 4 years of college. Okay, than you probably do getting your PhD, depending on what it is. Now, some things like mathematics or high level physics, something like that, where you really have to have an interest in it, right? But I got hell, I got one, two, three, four, five, six guys that got their PhDs or equivalents within 6 years. Okay. They started when they were 16. By the time they're 22, 23, they had their PhDs or they had their doctorates. Okay. So uh, I'm still sure the people that don't have the requisite skill in whatever the endeavor is have a hard time. I'm sure that happens. That's not the same for everybody.
So I say all this about the PhD squid games to say that you're stuck with this knowledge, you're stuck with this information and how you sold your soul over and over. And guess what? That knowledge, it goes away because time moves on and it changes. So it's only relevant then to you that you gave your life to a slither of time and knowledge that is no longer relevant because new studies come and new information has shown itself. So only you and you and you only gave a fuck and you sold your life and your time and all of your stuff away. This is why I call PhD squid games. This is why people revere people. People have no idea what the fuck.
And this is another reason why I left. And this is a lot of this. I used to hear a lot of this stuff in the so-called conscious community, the pro-black community, right? Somebody would get an idea in their head. It would had not based on fact, not based on really any good information, something that they didn't like, and they make a whole diatribe or whole um, stream of consciousness about something. Okay, and you have to sit here and listen to it, and you say, okay, so where are you going with this? Are you saying that PhDs are not valuable? Are you saying that education is not valuable? Okay, a lot of this stuff in a lot of this. people in this particular vein are saying that college is not necessary. It's better to get a trade and earn money because at the end of the day, earning money is what education is about. Anyway, continuing. So, um,
Fuck people go through trying to get a PhD, to write a dissertation for 300, 400 pages of just shit that nobody gives a fuck about. And you're stuck with it the rest of your life. And you sold your soul. Y'all understand where I'm going here. And only someone who has approached the PhD and dissertation process with that lovely, wonderful professor who just won't quit. They're giving you hell all along the way. Only then and then can you understand why it is so revered.
evidently, did you? I'm wondering, did you? No, thing is, did you go through the process? Okay, because you're taking this way too personally. Did you go through the process and it wasn't for you? Did you try to get a master's and it wasn't for you? You're not saying anything that's relevant. Okay, you're shitting on people whose experience you have no idea. And then I'm sure there's people that went through a torturous process to get a PhD. I'm sure there's people where it was the blast. Okay, a lot of guys I talked to that got a PhD, they had a good time doing it. It wasn't was it rigorous? Sure. Um, was it tough? Sure, because it has to be. They have to make sure that you're qualified to get that doctorate. It should be tough. But what she's saying is not what the experience that I've heard from people trying to get a PhD.
To get a doctorate PhD. Okay. I speak as someone who has been down the gauntlet. Yes.
Gabe, if you're gonna come in here and complain, Gabe, you can leave. Okay, you're gonna come in here and complain, you can leave. We know we're not going through that today, Gabe. So you're gonna come here and complain. I don't know why they timed you out. Okay. Um, you can detract, but thing is, it's called being respectful. If you're not respectful, they're gonna time you out. Okay. I can say that.
Ooh, I shiver when I think about it. I shiver when I think about it. I was 1 year away and my fertility was down. And my doctor
Ah,
said, right now, May, right now and never. And I said, well, my child, my daughter will be my PhD. Now, time has passed. My child is 8 years old. And
okay. That now we get into it. Okay. Now we get into it. Okay. That's the issue that she's having. Okay. It's personal. It's personal. Okay. Now we're getting to it. Now she could have started with that.
my father asked me, not too many years ago, he says to me, are you going to go back and get that PhD? My dad has not approached a PhD. My dad, like my brother and my mother, they have master's degrees. My dad has not approached a PhD. It is his greatest ambition that his firstborn, his daughter, me, that is May, Sharika, would have a PhD, be Dr. Freeman. But baby, I have been down the rabbit hole and I have no desire. And my ego is so satisfied. My ego is so satisfied. I do not desire a PhD behind my name.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's I knew it was personal. Okay, now your experience is not your experience cannot be the same for everybody. Okay, you should have told you this is your personal experience about the PhD process. Then now comes into some kind of context. Now it comes into some kind of context. Now we're getting it. You should have started with that. Okay, instead of going through all the shitting on PhDs and then find out that it's personal because it did sound personal. Now we know. We should have started with that.
I'm good. No more Squid Game for me. I can do it. I don't care. I don't need it. Ashe. So anyhow, by the time you do all of this investment of time, you lose yourself. Let me just say this. I was on my own honeymoon, okay? Honeymoon in Dubai. And I had to literally fight my professor. Had to go to the dean on the professor because they could not understand that for 2 months, 2 weeks, I had to take time for my new marriage. It's me and him. We're globetrotting. We spent 3 weeks traveling Europe and the Middle East for our honeymoon. And they said the paper is due. And I said, that's going to have to wait because
Oh,
I'm living my life.
the paper's going to have to wait because the paper is due. Now, I don't know what her process was. I have no clue what a process is, but the thing is, one thing I do know about school, right? Especially process like this, they let you know way ahead of time when certain things are due, way ahead of time. Okay, so if you're on your honeymoon and you're married, you knew this paper was due. I'm assuming. Now this stuff is belly aching. Okay, you anyway. So like any other thing in school, right? If your papers due, your papers due. The teacher or the professor does not have to wait for you to come off your honeymoon to finish a paper. That's on you.
I'm not going to sell my soul completely. And boy, did I have a battle on my hands. I had to go through the dean, and I had to do um, a challenge directly with the professor. She just would not understand that I was not about to give away the most important experience, planning a wedding, having a wedding, honeymoon. I was not about to give it away and sit in a hotel room and work on these papers and submit these papers when I'm trying to live a real life. She didn't like that. She said she felt like I didn't prioritize.
She's right. You didn't prioritize. If it's okay. Anyway,
Oh, I had to fight. I
okay.
had to fight.
So this is
Anyhow.
this is catharsis. Okay.
But you develop, if you've sold your soul in your time, you develop babbling syndrome. This is what you will see with people who are overeducated. They didn't went down the rabbit hole and they have had books and scholars and this and that and knowledge and information and charts and graphs and data and written papers, books, papers, right? This is your whole world. You got swallowed the fuck up. You went down the rabbit hole and you can't undo it. So you stuck with all this shit. And it starts to drive you crazy. So what do? You got to let it out. You got to tell somebody. But guess what? Like I said, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody in the natural, real world gives a fuck about you and that rabbit hole. And all that shit that you put yourself in to find all.
Okay. You said Emma Still has a PhD in science. She is capping excuses. She didn't want to do the work. Getting a PhD is not easy. Exactly. No.
this knowledge and information. Nobody gives a fuck. Literally. Nobody gives a fuck. Only you.
Okay.
But a lot of these people don't know that. They don't know that nobody gives a fuck. As soon as they can corner a poor victim, they will corner you and they will start talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and babbling and babbling and babbling. And that's what they do, studying too long. So, anyway,
Okay.
now I get to the next part.
Thank you.
Therapy. Therapy. Therapy is a very important thing in society. Therapy. Therapy is a way, there's lots of different ways to heal, lots of different approaches to therapy. A lot of people have past traumas, they have current issues. People need therapy for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, that is true, CD. She wanted special rules about deadlines, but she could have married at any other time. She could have finished the paper early. Okay. If you're in a PhD process and you're getting married, okay, and your husband knows that you're in a PhD process, you could have planned you could have gotten married after you got your papers done and after you got your PhD. Okay. You could have prioritized your PhD. You prioritize your marriage over your PhD and you flush down years of work. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so it happens. It happens. She supposedly left the space, was never part of the. She was never part of it. The thing is that and she definitely knew when papers are due, and they tell you at the start of the program what to expect. They do. That's what I thought. You know, uh, I've talked to God knows how many PhDs that are in this space that tell me what the process is. When one of my best friends, Dr. Johnson, I've known, I've, he's been my good friend for God, it's got to be 8 years now. Okay. And we constantly talk about the process that he went through and the papers that he went through and the papers he had to write and the books that he had to write and the classes he had to teach. Okay. The classes he has to teach. Talks about his sister who also has a PhD in papers she wrote and some people that that do have PhDs. Okay, You would be surprised how thin their papers are. Okay, some of them, even at Harvard, how thin their academic papers are. It's not a 300-page paper. More might be more like a 100-page paper. It depends on your professor. Yeah, most PhD mentors and advisors are flexible. I think she was looking for an excuse to drop out. That's what it sounds like, man. That's what it sounds like. Um, she assumed because the professor was a woman, she would get a pass. I think she was looking for a pass because she wanted to do what she wanted to do, and I see this with a well, I see this with a lot of students. I see this with a lot of people, especially black women. They think that rules should be bent for them. The master teacher responded, I attended the elite feminist women's college, Agnes Scott College class in 2003. Eh, she talks about being a PhD dropout. Okay. Yeah. Um, Mr. BGS, she is bullshitting, as all PhD programs have an outline before you even register, such as research topics, the dissertation, the time of completion, and a supervisor allocated to you. That's what I know, man. They from what my understanding, they're very anal about um, PhD papers. You take somebody like Dr. Tommy Curry that got his PhD, I think, in his 20s, right? Okay. He has written Tommy Curry has written like 100 papers, okay? He's written like 100 papers. It can be done, okay? It can, if you prioritize, it can be done. And if you can write, it can be done, okay? I don't have a PhD. I know that I can write. Uh, if I take a year, I can put together a 300-page paper. Hold on a sec, folks. I'll be right back. All right, and what she's saying sounds like what I hear Dr. Johnson go through all the time, right, with his students, right? They wait till the last second, they don't get their work done, and they want more time, and they want the rules bent for them because they didn't follow the syllabus or the process that was outlined for them. And I said the same way Amanda Seals created her major at Kunst of New York. You mean like that? I mean, if you can find it, yeah. If you can find it, let me continue. Let me go ahead and get through some of this, man, because we're only like 20 minutes into this.
People have loss. I mean, any emotion you can think of, anxiety, people need therapy. Therapy is relief, right? It's relief from discomfort and pain and anguish and so many other things. Now, I'm not talking about schizophrenia and some of those disorders, right? I'm just talking about everyday people who have problems that they need to resolve. They need to think differently about how they are processing their so called problems. So, therapy to me is a form of healing. And I'm going to get to the point very quickly. I believe that there are people who are not capable of doing the thing in real life. And so they come online to try to recreate themselves, to project a form of success with a so called captive audience. And when I say a captive audience, I just mean that by default, by design, there's a fucking audience. I'll give you an example. One of the things I have seen is people who can't preach.
Yeah,
We're talking about religion here. They'll
yeah, everybody's still waiting on the book. Book's about half done, man. It's not a fact that I can't do it. It's a matter of fact that I got to find a motivation to really just finish the book, because most of the work is online, is already there. Um, um, the thing is, if the thing is for that particular book, and the problem with a book with a book about octane talk about this is that the book probably should be about 1,500 pages, which is way too big, right? Okay, way too big. The thing is, the problem I'm having is what to include and what not to include. And so when I write a section, um, to make it it's readable. The thing is readable. The thing is that um, the book should, I want the book to be like 300 pages, and and if it's because but people also want the whole description. They want scenarios. They want what is it? They want not options. What do they call that? They want descriptions of the people and stuff like that, and how it plays out in real time. And basically, the book probably should be like 1,500 pages. It probably would have to be 1,500 pages, right? Each octane probably is a 300-page book by itself. The combinations between the two, who should get together, why you should pick this person, what happens when these two people get together, and what are the combinations, and what kind of interaction is going to happen. That's, in other words, it should be like an encyclopedia rather than a book. So we understand it's going to do numbers. It may or may not. Okay, it may or may not. May use the real world versus the internet, not understanding that the internet is part of the real world. That's why Andrew Tate got big. Um, I don't understand what it. They think that the internet is not the real world with real people. Okay, and I've been on the internet since 1988. Okay, and basically what I've come to understand is that people are more themselves online than they are in the real world. Okay, believe it or not. Okay, people will drop that mask in a heartbeat. Okay, and the same guy that you meet in real life, you would never know what he's thinking. Okay, because his real thoughts are actually online under that pseudonym that where people can't really see who he is. Okay. One challenge to getting a PhD and doing PhD work is to have a consistent and disciplined reading and writing schedule. Exactly. That's what it's supposed to teach. Oh man, you know how many questions I get just in the stuff that I put out. And one day I might just put out some of the stuff I've already done and show you. And people always come up with pieces that are missing. What about an example of this? So say like say like just an 85, right? You got five different types of 85s. You got a ghetto girl, um, you got the climber, okay. You got the I'm trying to think of all of them, right? You got the chick, the welfare chick, right? You got the rats. You got about five different types, right? Each of them have. I could actually do an example of each one of them, right? Okay. If I did that just in that section, that would take probably about, if I did it an example like even a page a piece, okay, a couple of pages a piece. Okay, just the examples, right? Okay, just that little section of that chapter probably would take about 20 pages. Okay, if I just gave examples of each personality, if I did examples of the interactions about what you would get out of that woman, out of each different personality, okay, each one of those would also take about about 5 pages, right? The book would, so when you take um, the 16 different types, because uh you got 5 levels, which is 5 class levels, male and female, right? But you also got what I call the diesels, which is the dark side, black pill side, which is the sex workers, or those kind of folks, right? Okay, the diesels have 3 levels, right? And also have 3 levels for the guys. You talk about 16, okay? If you take 16 and you talk about each chapter gets maybe um okay, just to explain it fully, maybe about 50 pages. The book will be very big very quickly. Okay. And that's just the minimum. 50 pages per chapter, 16. You're talking about 800 or 900 pages very quickly. Okay. Anyway, don't tell us publish the book, sir. Yeah, I get that a lot. MS Delta says, I agree with Dr. Johnson. Publish the book. Okay. I'll get it done. End of the year, it'll be done.
They'll come and get a bunch of food, right? They'll get a bunch of food through charity otherwise, and they'll go to a park. Just give an example. And they'll serve hot dogs or pizza or something. But before you can eat the hot dogs and pizza, if you're a homeless person, you got to sit and listen to me preach. Okay. I've seen that type of thing. I've seen
Yeah, Jesus did it. It's called feeding the masses, right? That's the fish, the loaves and fishes, right? Before people will sit down and listen to you. Okay, you got to feed them first. Very old story.
people who can't really do something well try to find a captive audience because otherwise they wouldn't have one. And that's the truth. I've seen people use lures like food. I've seen people use free shit, right? Nobody would give a fuck if you wasn't giving away something free. So you have to create an audience, a captive audience, pretty much sometimes people who don't really give a fuck, right? Because you can't really naturally attract people. You can't just easily get an audience in a crowd. You have to go look deep and find some kind of strange niche process to summon people to let them struggle to care, right? I'm just telling y'all what I've seen in the real world. I see that in the third world all the time, right? You selling something don't nobody want to buy, so you got to lure them in with the promise of a free thing. They do that with timeshares too when you travel. Okay, you wouldn't be sitting listening to that goddamn sales pitch if it wasn't a promise of a night dinner on a sailboat.
And they do free. It's called free samples at Walmart, okay, or Costco, or the grocery store, okay. It's called advertising. They do it all the time. Give you free Coke.
You would not give a fuck. So I'm just letting y'all know that captive audiences are a real thing. And I would submit to you that I believe that Maggie Thompson has come online, likely, can't say for sure. And I've done some reflection. And that's why I began this by talking about sometimes when you give time and space, you can be a little bit more fair, a little bit more objective. You can give yourself time to process what you heard and maybe see it from a new direction and be fair. And I've done that. I did that today. I watched this video. It just happened to come in my feed. I don't know why. Put my earplug in. I hear Maggie's voice. And I said, let me listen to this shit. It's one called Demon Face. And that was the original one. I've listened to several of them, right? And Demon Face. And I remember my first thought was, what the fuck? What the fuck? So we got auras and aura glasses and green images and demon faces. And we've got some CIA report about the alternative reality or some shit, you know. What is it? The holographic. Da, da, da. I've heard all this. Sounds like Nature Boy shit, personally. But Nature Boy probably, you know, he's a babbler too. Motherfuckers just be babbling. And I just sat there and I listened to it again. And I said, let me be objective here. And then when I got done with it, I said, what the fuck does this really have to do? Right? Aliens and all this stuff. And I saw it. I said, that's the PhD Squid Game. She's been through the PhD Squid Games. That's all. And what does that lead to? Babbling syndrome. You done been down that rabbit hole. You done read so much. You done seen so much. You done processed so many charts, so many PhDs, so much studies, so many books, so many papers, so many letters, research, PhD, this, that, da, 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 go on, go on. Rabbit hole never ends. You are stuck in the dark and you have no light and your life is gone and you dedicated and sold your soul. And now you are stuck with all this information and you need just one thing, which is a what? Captive motherfucking audience. Somebody to listen to that babbling bullshit that nobody gives a fuck about. A slice of life that nobody gives a fuck about but you. I understand. So that's what I saw. That's what I saw. That's what I processed today. So I go on to
That's what you process. That's the way you see things, okay. That's the way you see things. It is hater talk. She didn't. Okay, this is just her Dr. T, she don't have a problem with Maggie. What she has a problem is that Maggie is on has a wrench on my channel. That's the whole problem. Okay. And that Maggie is teaching shadow work for those who don't want to listen. Okay. That's the problem that she has because she says Maggie is in this space. Maggie's not in this space. Okay. Maggie might be on people's uh in people's chats. Okay. She might be there in people's chats. Maggie really doesn't promote her work like that. So but this is her. Um, I don't want to, and this I've heard this from several people. I don't want a white woman uh, uh, in your chats. And when I ask why, it has nothing to do except she's a white woman. And they want me to prove what value that Maggie has in my chat and why and what value Maggie has to the what she's teaching that relates to what I'm trying to get across. Okay, that's all it is. So basically, even though Maggie does not have a PhD, okay, she's never been on the PhD track. Um, this is her interpretation.
talk about therapy. There are babbling therapists. Y'all do know that, right? That's bad therapy. They're babblers. Okay. They've gone down the rabbit hole and they got to do something with all that shit. So they need a captive audience. And they can't by other means just get a regular fucking audience, a functional fucking audience that actually appreciates the shit. I tell you one thing, I know healers. And for example, Deepak Chopra, that man writes a book, it gets sold out. There's a demand. People need it. People want it. They care. It's relevant, right? He has a retreat. It's fucking sold out. I know because I go on Deepak Chopra retreats. Very expensive, I should say. Very expensive, I should say. Okay. There are people, as soon as they throw open the doors, the crowd is marching in. The people desire, they need it, they want it, they care because the information is relevant. I submit to you again that there are people who come online because they can't. I'll say it again. There are people who come online because they can't. So let me tell you all about Colonel Sanders, the bad therapist. When I was at Agnes Scott College, which is a women's college located here in Decatur, Georgia, I got my bachelor's degree there. It's a college for women, and it was very difficult. I have a video where I actually tour after so many years. I hadn't been there. Walked the campus, and I was just astounded and overwhelmed with emotion because I
Oh
had
boy.
not experienced the space.
Let's skip forward just a bit, man. Wow, yeah, wow, I didn't know BGS had us as a captive audience. I didn't either. I did not either.
In so long, and it brought back a lot of memories and emotion. There's a video of me walking the campus. I think I took that last year sometime. Anyway, Agnes Scott College brought out every insecurity that I could possibly have as a human being. I was young. I was excited about life. I was recently divorced, and I had all opportunity to become anybody and do anything I wanted to do. I had a sense of freedom and excitement about life, being so young, 20, what, 21, 22, 21.
How you get recently divorced at 21? Okay. Uh, Already this is not making sense.
And so I got a scholarship, academic based scholarship. I was in an honor society, and the scholarship required, all my academic scholarships required me to keep a high GPA. Well, the way that the academics is set up at that school, it is not as easy as it may seem. You do a lot of talking and meeting with professors, very small group meetings,
I
appointments.
think she's in her mid 40s. That's why I think that's how old she is. I think she's in her mid 40s. So that's my estimation. Um, but this is the issue I have with her. Basically, uh, you know, um, we've got maybe a couple of points, but I think most of this is cathartic because she's talking about her experience, which she should have started with. Okay, instead of going in about PhDs and the bullshit process stuff like that. Go by your experience. Tell your story. Okay, and how you felt about the process. Because, like I say, Dr. T's in here. Dr. T never said that. You know, it's going to be stressful sometimes, sure, but I think Dr. T never said that he had a horrible experience during his PhD process.
A lot of the magic happens in the privacy of you and the professor in their office. It is not a typical school where you just simply sit in your chair, listen, and are talked to. It doesn't quite work that way. Doesn't quite work that way. This is a whole different world where you talk, communicate, talk with your professor. And your professor is you must impress upon your professor your passions and be able to answer their questions and engage them at a high level. It's different. It's different. I can't really.
So we're okay. That's the whole thing about a stream of consciousness, man. Basically, it goes everywhere. So there really is no point. She pretty much said everything that she needed to say. Okay, um, about Maggie. She believes Maggie's a grifter. She believes Maggie is taking advantage is because Maggie can't get an audience in real life, and maybe she can't. Okay, Deepak Chopra. There's always elites in any field, right? Billions of people go through life doing whatever they do to get attention or to get a following, and YouTube is just one of those. YouTube is just one of those. Does that mean that you're a grifter? That means that you can't attract an audience in real life? Not necessarily so. I said there are many variables that shape a doctoral experience, and professors have competing time and resource pressures too. They do. Something does add up. I know black women who love going to Agnes Scott. They're all about girl power and getting women prepared for graduate school. Yeah. Um, like I said, my daughter just went through the master's program. Uh, she did it about less than a year. Okay, she got her master's. Okay, and uh, and she never complained. It was never this hard for the free my dusty captive audience behind. You ain't shit, Mr. Me Too. Okay, let me go ahead and go through a little bit more of this, man, because it's getting old. And then let me skip forward just a bit, man. I know I'm gonna miss some stuff, but I had hoped she would get to the point about what the seed of her concern was. But thing is, she did the same thing that we just had did a video, right? We just reacted to a video about single mothers, right? And one thing black women do, man, they wrap whatever they want in around bullshit. So by the time you figure out what is in the middle of that thin layer of what they're trying to get to, you got to dig through all the bullshit to get to it. The thing is that that's the thing with Maggie. Why do I have to dig through all this bullshit? You're supposed to have an outline about what you want to talk about, and you're still wandering. So you say you have ADHD. I talk to people who have ADHD, and they do babble, but they normally can get to the point.
I started having anxiety attacks. Okay. Anxiety attacks are not fun. They are not fun. You get dizzy, your heartbeat, you just get erratic. It's not good. And so I decided, because we had what do you call it? We had a counseling center. We had a counseling center. So I decided to walk my black ass into the counseling center and surrender myself. I'm here. I need help. I'm anxious. And I'm worried. And I had a very sweet lady. They had 3 counselors, and they took good care of us.
Maggie has haters. Maggie has haters not because of who she is. Maggie has haters is because of where she is. Maggie has haters because Maggie has been in other people's spaces, on other people's platforms, in the chat for years before she got to mine. All of a sudden, when it gets to mine, to my channel and my chat, now it's an issue. Maggie's name never came up before she got to my channel and was in my chat, and we actually would talk about certain things, right? Especially we'd talk about shadow work. Okay, now it's an issue. Now it's they're trying to persuade BGS to vote Maggie off the island. Okay, that's really what it wasn't an issue before she got to my channel. Now, why my channel's so impactful? Okay, even just being in a chat, I have no clue.
Agnes Scott girls, anything you want, the World for Women, they got it available. How many schools got free counseling? They pay for counseling. They take care of you. And a lot of girls went to counseling because the pressure. Ooh, the pressure. It's not a fun school. I don't give a fuck what it looks like. You obsess. You don't live. You don't go to anything. You don't do anything. Just a bunch of fucking nerds obsessing about academia. Baby. Anyway, the shit we get into, right? I gave my life to that stuff. 20 years I gave my life to that. Wow.
20 years. Okay.
I could have been doing a lot. Anyway, I could have been doing a lot of shit. I could have.
See, it's catharsis. In other words, it's a regret. Okay. It's regret on her part.
Having fun in my 20s. Anyway, I can't live in regret. It is what it is. Anyhow. So anyway, I started doing counseling, and the counseling was very good. And they helped me to pull back some of my insecurities. Well, what does it mean? So this is what I'm talking about. Therapy has to be relevant to people. Even the knowledge around therapy has to be fucking relatable. It has to be relevant. I was a student who was struggling, and so they provided me support about my mentality towards education. And she helped me pull back some layers. You have some insecurities here. What is it that you're worried about? If you don't succeed, just say if you didn't succeed, what would it mean? What do you believe about you? What beliefs do you hold about yourself already before you came to this school? Oh, you're having some negative thoughts. Oh, you don't think you're that smart. You think you're smart, but not that smart. Okay, let's deal with that. We challenged ideas, preconceived notions, right? A series of questions that made me think deeper about how I think about myself. I had to question, where did these ideas come from? What was impressed upon me that made me believe certain things about myself? Where did these doubts come from? What evidence did I have? And that's the part that she really helped me with. Do you have any evidence of that? She asked me that constantly. Do you have any evidence of that? Boy, that was a breakthrough. I didn't have evidence of half of the shit.
Okay, basically, half the stuff is we're listening to her catharsis. And okay, so basically, a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with anything that she's talked that of the subject, right?
And I should say this: Black people do not need to fear therapy. Do not need to fear. You don't have to tell everybody your business, but sometimes it's okay if you need to.
Okay, skip forward a little bit more, see if she got something.
Because you enter in too many characters. That's a problem. I'm just saying people shouldn't have to work this goddamn hard. Reading is supposed to be enjoyable. But Shantaram, I'm gonna conquer this one. I'm gonna have to be real fucking bored and old when I got time. I don't have time for this shit right now. But I'll read Shantaram. I used to read Donald Goins too. I love Donald Goins. I like that pimp shit. I ain't gonna lie. I like that pimp shit. I got Donald Goins. Let me tell y'all what Donald Goins like. I got a whole library here. I like Donald Goins.
All right, all
If
right.
you have people that are babbling and talking bullshit and nobody fucking cares and can't relate to it, go in
Okay.
books. You know why? Because I was trying to relate to my students, and I had male students. They don't want to read about no goddamn women, and they don't want to hear nothing about Little Women and all kind of shit. Oliver Twist. They don't give a fuck about that. My students was from the streets. They wanted to read some shit, and I said, I got something for you to read. And so I used to give them Donald Goins books and Iceberg Slim books. I sure did. They can't find me now because I'm gone. Too late. But you know what? My male students read that shit. They enjoyed it. They be like, Miss Freeman, you got another one? I'd be like, yep, I got a whole library just for you. And what's the other one? I have another guy. He's like Donald Goins. I saw his shit at the Decatur Book Fest. Where's it at? Damn, where's it at? I want to show you. I want to talk about his book. God damn it. I don't locate it at this time. I'll put it. Oh, here it is. There it is. See some of them, but I can no longer really read for I can't read like I used to. All right. So my point is this. I'm almost done. Those who can do look for captive audiences and they come to the internet a lot of times. Because at least you can make a video somebody might look at, right? Or might care about, or happen upon accidentally. And all I'm telling you is that I believe that people who have talent, like Deepak Chopra, people who are healers, even if it's just pop culture, there's a demand. People care. People run towards you. You don't have to come up with scams and grifts and bullshit. And you don't have to just sell bottled air.
In other words, scams and grift and bullshit, and people use grifting wrong, right? It's false information. It's fraud, okay? And there are people that do fraud on the internet. Cynthia G did fraud for years, okay? Fraud, straight up fraud. But the vast majority of people on the internet, on YouTube, do not do fraud, okay? The people that you like Nature Boy, okay? That's fraud. It's bullshit. It's made up, okay? It's made up. Now you trying to say Maggie is a grifter. Maggie pulls out papers. Maggie pulls out receipts. Maggie pulls out studies, okay? It's not fraud. You might not agree with it, but it's not fraud. It sounds like instead of studying at Dagna Scott, she wanted to go to Atlanta and parties. That's what it sounds like. Yeah. It sounds like it sounds like I don't know, man. Maybe school wasn't for her. And she spent 20 years trying to get it. And maybe school's not for you. And you're trying to get a PhD for your father, and that's not what you wanted. You really wanted to do what you want to do. But the thing is, why are you here? You're bothering other people. Like I said, I know friends that went through the whole process with school, with undergrad, masters, and PhD. They did in 6 or 7 years. Okay, I got my little goddaughter, right? Okay, just she's 19. Okay, she's getting ready to graduate with her bachelor's. Okay, she's gonna get a she's doing something in international agriculture, something like that, right? She got 3 associate degrees before she got out of high school. Can be done, and she loves what she does. Okay, the school process is to some people can be grinding and aggravating. For some people that love it. Okay, if you didn't like it, you should have dropped out. But anyhow, but most of this is catharsis. Let's go ahead and finish it up, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Maggie's selling bottled air. That's what I'm telling you. I looked at it with new glasses. I took off my I can't stand white women glasses, right? I took those glasses. I was, let me look at this woman. Let me look at this woman and what this woman is saying. Just a woman, not a white woman, not a Becky. Let me just look at this white woman as a woman. And I seen pretty much, actually, it was a whole new level. It was a whole new level. I said, this woman apparently is just babbling. It's just a bunch of babble. And I met one like that. I actually organized with a babbling Becky. She wasn't a therapist. She was an attorney. The bitch thought she was real smart. Thought she was the smartest person in the room. She really did. And she thought that everything that came out of her mouth, this is not long, long ago. And she reminds me of Billie Jean. I don't know if y'all seen The Legend of Billie Jean, that movie. This
Now she could have. Now this part about Maggie babbling and selling bottled air and grifting, she could have done this at the beginning of the video because that's what it's about. She could have done this whole video in like 10 minutes, okay, instead of going through her angst and going through her process and really basically she put Maggie in it and she put the PhDs in it, okay, and to actually get us to listen to her angst and the problem that she has. She had anxiety attacks, right? She's ADHD. That's difficult for somebody that has what she has to get uh, through a graduate process, okay? Because uh, the regiment that you have to have and the discipline that you have to have to get through the process, okay? And if you got anxiety attacks and you got ADHD, is going to be 3 times as difficult to get through the process. Okay. That's not your fault. That's not the school's fault. That's not the process's fault. It's just the two things don't mix. And at the very end, when you all you had to do is put your paper on the table, you walked away from it. Okay. That's fine. Okay. But thing is coming after Maggie and coming after us. Really, I have no idea why Maggie is so important to you. Okay, Maggie has a very small channel. Why is Maggie so important to you? Not like Maggie has 500,000 followers. Okay, very tiny channel talking about very specific things. Why is Maggie so important to you? That's the thing I can't figure out. Okay,
white woman has a spiked hairstyle. They always come looking like that, spiked and funny looking hairstyles. These babbling ass women, these babbling ass Beckys, they always look the same. They always got some weird ass hairstyle, spiked hair, choppy hair, um, blue hair, green. There's always something about the goddamn hair. Anyway, when you see that, just watch out. There's something strange. Now I'm gonna lie. The lady, she she's smart. She's smart. She's a lawyer. She's smart. I deal with a lot of lawyers, in the work that I do as activist. She's smart.
yeah, she is emotionally downloading. That's what she's doing right now. This is cathartic, because she's going through her process about. I mean, if I was sitting there and saying that me and her were having sex and blah blah blah, and she started telling me about her life, this is what it sounds like, right? About the process I went through with this PhD with my ADHD and stuff that I went through and how I had to fight with you know my professors about my papers that I knew was doing for you knew had to be done by a certain time for a year and a half. Okay, and because if I'm not mistaken, from what I've learned about the PhD process, if you a paper, you got to report in every so often, every few weeks about the process of your paper and get reviews. So if your paper has to be turned in, the paper probably has been reviewed about 5 or 6 times. You've met with the professor. You know what the deadline is. You know what errors or omissions or stuff like that you have with that paper. Okay, turn in a paper. Okay, turn in a paper that you have a year and a half to write because you dedicated your whole life to write that paper, and you know when it's coming. Okay, anyhow. But the thing is, she's going over the spike hairstyle and her being white and her being weird, her babbling or babbling ass Becky's is like, okay, I thought you took off your white woman's glasses. Okay, I thought you took that away. I thought you had gotten rid of that. Okay. Now, if you really had a problem with me having her on the channel, the issue should be with me. It's not with her. It should be with me. I got all these people trying to prove why Maggie shouldn't have space on my channel. Okay, got a ton of people trying to prove why Maggie should have space on my channel. I know why I have Maggie on my channel. Okay, I know why I point to her work. I know why I use it. And sometimes me and Maggie don't agree, but I know why I point to her work. Okay. And the person that determines whether what I do with my channel and with my time and who I direct people to is me. Attacking her is not going to do any good. Okay. They used to attack Kevin. And Kevin first, and when Kevin first got introduced to this space, to the Black Manosphere, they used to attack Kevin all the time. I knew what I needed out of Kevin. Okay. The high value man is what he produced. I knew the high value man was there. I knew that he was the one to actually polish these guys up and create the space for these people. Okay, on YouTube and in social media, and hell, even the world, right? Okay. I knew the potential that Kevin had to actually do this. That's why I picked him, right? And trust and believe, there's a lot of times a whole bunch of guys did not like Kevin. Okay. Why is Kevin here? Kevin's too bougie. Kevin seems like he's effeminate. Kevin, blah, blah, on and on and on and on and on for years, right? Until Kevin blew up. And when Kevin blew up, then everybody, oh no, we knew this the whole time. No, you didn't. Okay. It is what it is. Yeah. Uh, sometimes I feel like that, man. But the thing is that um, there's certain things that I want to get across that I need help with. Okay, um, Dr. T's one of hey, they didn't like Dr. T when he first came into the space, right? But I knew talking to Dr. T that he had a lot to give to this space, and he has given a lot to give to this space. In fact, they still talk about his 18 points, which um, at the time, Dr. T can tell you that he didn't think it was going to be effective, right? And I had to plead with him, on bended knee, okay, for him to write it, okay, because I knew that he was the one to actually write it, okay. He had to be the one to write it. He said, "I'm not the one. I don't think it's going to be." I said, "Doc, I know, but nobody's going to read it, Doc. I know, but I need you to write it anyway." I had to beg Dr. T for a couple of months to write that 18 points, right? The beginning of it, right? Had to beg for that, okay? But I knew what I needed, okay, for what I wanted in this space. I knew what I needed, and what anybody else needed, anybody else agreed with it, they probably didn't. But things I knew what I needed. That's how come I begged him to do it, and he did it. And fortunately, the way systems work, uh, when we needed it, it popped up, especially in 2022, when Stacey Abrams ran for governor in Atlanta, right? And then my girl here in LA ran for mayor, okay? The Ice Cube effect and Black Manosphere and the Black BMI, Black Male Independence, as far as voting, all of a sudden that popped up, right? And people wonder, okay, what do they want, okay? And guess what was waiting for them? Doc's 18 points, okay? Which which I know how processes work, and somewhere along the line they're gonna come looking, okay? And somebody with Dr. T's knowledge and stature had to be the one that actually put this out. And guess what? They came looking, they found it. Crimson Cure. Yeah, Crimson Cure came off of my channel. Okay, she came out of my it came out of my camp and my ladies camp, right? And me and Angry Man, to his credit, said that she needed to start her own channel. Okay, and we guided her through her starting her own channel. In fact, I used to play clips of uh her broadcast on my channel to promote her years ago, right? Okay, she was one of us. Okay, is because we needed a female voice, because there's two things in a gynocracy like black people live in. One, women are going to listen to women, and two, black men are going to listen to women. And until they verify that a woman said it, that's the way she's thinking. A woman came out of a woman's mouth, a lot of times guys are not going to believe it. But anyhow, you know what? I'm like this, man. I'm like this. And this is something I said from the very beginning, right? My channel was built for 500 people. I needed 500 people that had skills and abilities to get shit done, okay? And my whole thing is not about fame, wasn't about money, because when I first got to this space, there was a group in New York that offered me $20,000 a month to keep all this stuff off of YouTube, off public media, and just hand them the research that I had uh, privately. Okay, but that's not my mission. Okay, still today, I had a bunch of people as far as my Patreon, right? I take the Tom Luongo model, right? He charges $20 a month, right? He's got 1,000 subs. That's just 1,000, not 40, not 50, 1,000. Okay, it's 20 grand a month for 1,000 people with boutique knowledge, that would desire boutique knowledge. Okay, some guys in my space, they will say they would pay $50 a month to get the inside decent and away from um, the average people, because the average people kind of mess up the whole pool. Okay. So if I got 1,000 people to $50 a month, I would not have to. The money would not be an issue. Okay, money would not be an issue. But that's not my mission. Okay, my mission is uh, to change. Put my shekels in a pot. I tell Doc this all the whole time. Right at this age, man, money's not that as big a deal as it used to be. Okay, my kids are grown. They got their degrees and whatnot. It's called a shekel theory, right? I got 2 shekels, okay, and if there's a big ass pot, my 2 shekels don't mean shit by themselves, right? There's just 2 shekels in a big ass pot, and but it's my duty to throw those 2 shekels in that pot, and hope that other people throw their 2 shekels in, and hopefully, if the weight of the pot gets big enough, we can change some shit. And so, thank God that my 2 shekels was added to and multiplied by other people's 2 shekels. And basically, believe it or not, um, that's why I played the Chinese historian. We're changing people's minds all over the planet, not just here in the black community, all over the fucking planet. And so this stuff has gone way beyond where we started. Okay, way beyond when I first got here. Okay, MGTOW is an idea was so tiny you couldn't even measure it, right? Okay, now 60% of young men are walking around as MGTOWs. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to get married, and some even don't have sex, right? That was unheard of 10 years ago. Unheard of. In fact, they called you gay and a whole bunch of other things. But now after COVID, and these young kids coming up and seeing what kind of pressures they're under, this is common. But that's my shekels theory. Okay. You hear from Ed? Okay. But anyway, man, I got to get out of here because AB's got the Coliseum, and that's where I'm headed over to. I just wanted to knock this out because she put it up, and one thing she knew if she put PhDs and bullshit therapy, I probably would know who she's talking about. But it still comes down to Maggie's a white woman, and she disagreed with what Maggie's doing, and she disagrees. Really, what she disagrees with is that um, Maggie's in my space. So the disagreement is not with Maggie. The disagreement is with me. And if she really wants to sit down and talk about it, it should be talked about with me. Attacking Maggie is not going to do any damn good, right? Because knowing me, and I might do it because I'm an asshole like that sometimes. The evil twin can be an asshole. I will start just reviewing Maggie shit on my channels, okay? And really piss people off. Because right now, I just refer to Maggie. Keep pissing me off, it's gonna get worse. Okay, it's not gonna get better. Okay, because the evil twin is like that. You don't like it, and you can't do nothing about it. Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna intensify it because you don't like it. And if I hear one more people about Maggie, and trust and believe, Maggie's gonna have a regular spot on this particular channel right here. Okay. BGS doesn't want credit. He wants. I want change, man. We've gotten change. Charles has been with me for a very long time. He's seen this space change and change the world around it. Okay. People don't want to give it credit. Oh, BGS, you can't point to a politician that heard you and changed shit. Okay. Don't care. Okay. If it's a fucking butterfly effect, okay, and shit changes because of the butterfly effect, it's good enough for me. Because shit wasn't changing before I got here. Shit wasn't changing before the Black Manosphere got big. Okay, same old shit. Now all of a sudden shit is changing. Got to be something. It's got to be the shoes, right? The shoes. Anyhow, y'all, let me get out of here. BGS, I cannot be governed. I go where I want. I want all the smoke, regardless. I do what I want. And there's people that listen to people that I disagree with. Okay, and people's channels. Andre can tell you, Andre's on people's channels that I don't like. Okay, but that's Andre. Um, and I always tell people, my subs are not owned by me. Okay, my subs come to me because I have something to say that they agree or disagree with. Okay, that I have something valuable to share with them. That's why I come they're here. They're not here because I own them. I don't own them. In fact, I would say very few of my subs I even know. Okay. And I can say very few subs I've even met personally. Okay. So I don't know them. I don't own them. I don't control them. And that's the mistake. I don't control them. And people think that I have this magic power to control people, and I don't. Okay. Uh, The only power I have to quote the Falcon and Captain America is I believe that we can do better. It's the only power I have. That's it, in a nutshell. But I'm out. I'm headed over to AB Media's Coliseum, and I will see you guys later. And we look up. There's not Maggie has done nothing to anybody, man. It's just, you know, it's just, and a lot of these guys in this space act like black women, man. Okay, they act like black women. Jesus Christ. I said, yes, you are. I'm proof. They don't even understand how much you relate. No, they don't. They don't. They don't. And I personally talked before I even brought Maggie on. I personally talked to Maggie for hours to make sure that she was a good fit for what we're trying to get across. Okay, but uh, but Maggie, I don't know if you listen to this, and May, I don't know if you listen to this, but you inspired me to actually increase Maggie's coverage. Okay, so I'm going to be reviewing some of Maggie's shadow work on this channel. Okay, starting next week. Okay, start next week. I'll be reviewing it and going over some stuff. So, so you didn't want to see Maggie, you hated Maggie on my channels. Guess what? You're gonna get more of it. So if you're sick of her being on this channel, you're probably gonna throw up. So you might as well go out and get you a puke bowl and start puking. Okay. Anyway, we're out of here. And see where is he at? Okay.